Hello, my name's Anne. Welcome to Purisima Mission State Historic Park. We're here today to teach you guys about the crafts and industry of this mission. And before we get started, how many of you live in California? Raise your hand. If you live in California, put your hand up.
Oh, we've got like 70, 80. Oh, we've got a bunch of people who live in California.
Awesome. Hey, raise your hand if you do not live in California. If you live outside of California, anybody from outside of California?
Got 6 hands up.
Well, welcome from outside of California. So we're here at a California State Historic Park. It has been set aside to explore the history, and today we're going to be exploring the industrial history of Purisima Mission. Let's see, when I say the word industry, what kinds of things do you think of? Maybe you can discuss that with the person you're watching this with. You know, when I think of industry, I think of factories. Raise your hand if the word factory came into your mind when you thought of the word industry. Anybody?
Lots of friends.
Lots of friends. Very good. So that's one of the things today. We use factories to produce goods. If you will, I'm at a mission factory. You can see my goods here. This is my product. I'm going to be producing these blankets at this mission. And that's what I would do today. But during mission times, there was a people who came to live at this mission whose lives were drastically changed. They were the first people of California. Long before this over 200-year-old mission existed, there were people here in California. And those people were the Chumash people. In fact, from where I'm standing right here, within a 10-mile radius of where I'm standing, are village sites that are thousands of years old. The oldest being about 9,000 years old. That's really amazing to think about. Chumash people here before time and memoriam. So we're on Chumash ancestral land. And as the Spanish came into California, they took the land from the Chumash and they turned it around. They changed it. And one of the ways they changed that was the animals that they brought in to this mission. We have Navajo Churro sheep here today. And that's a breed of sheep that was brought here during mission times. And there was about 10,000 head of sheep here at Purisima. Now, the Chumash people had not worked with those Navajo Churro sheep, but they did learn to work with them here at the mission. In fact, they became shepherds and they became weavers and carders and spinners. So I'm going to share with you what that looks like today. Come on over here. Look at this. My goodness. What do you notice about this? What does this remind you of? What do you wonder about it? Raise your hand if this reminds you of Chewbacca. Anyone?
Lots of friends.
Lots of friends think so. These are the fleece from the Navajo Churro sheep. You can see they have really long fibers. When I say fleece, I mean this is the hair that was cut off of those sheep. And you can see it's really dirty. What we call this, when you shear a sheep, you get this product right here. Again, this is an industry, so we're going to have different products. This product is raw fleece. Raw fleece, like uncooked, right? That's what we use the term raw for today. But during mission times, raw fleece was a product of the mission. Again, there were over 10,000 head of sheep here. So not all of this is going to be turned into the product of blankets. But this raw fleece is going to be used as trade for the trade ships to give us different things we'll need here that we couldn't get any other way. So this will eventually make its way down to South America, to some textile mills down there. Textile would be how they make fabric out of wool fleece, just like we're going to be making blankets here. So this is raw fleece. When I touch it, it feels grimy and sticky. And okay, ready? It smells too. This is not a clean fleece, but all of this is just wrapped up and traded. Now, the ones that we did keep, they are here. Now, this is a washed piece of that same fleece. You can see it's much cleaner. What do you notice in here? Oh, look. what's this? That looks like a twig. And look here in this clean piece. This is called vegetable matter. That's a piece of leaf, right? And so the first part after you clean a fleece is to get that out, get that vegetable matter out, because that won't come out when you wash it. And what I'm going to do with this is the first job that was done after shearing. Now, when we talk about shearing, I had some shears here earlier. I'm not sure where they went, but the Chumash men were trained how to shear sheep. And what that involves is taking the fleece sheep, flipping them on their back, and then trimming off all this hair. It's a really big job, and you're dealing with a sheep that weighs anywhere from 70 to 100 pounds. So you have to be really strong. Now imagine there's 10,000 head of sheep. They've all got to be sheared, and you're a Chumash man. So about 50 Chumash men would work on these sheep, and they would do somewhere between 75 and 80 sheep a day, trimming off all of that fleece until it was done. So that was one of the jobs. When the fleece was washed, the next job would be done by the young Chumash girls. So what I'm doing now is I'm pulling apart that hair and getting it ready to be brushed out. So as I do this, you can see, I think, raise your hand if you think it's ready to have a brush run through it. What do you think?
Oh, we've got about 50, 60, 70, lots of friends.
Wonderful. And you guys are so smart. So we're going to brush it out, and we're going to use this device right here. This is called a card, like a birthday card. What does it remind you of? This, raise your hands if it reminds you of like a cat brush or a dog brush. Anybody? Yeah, my cat brush looks like this. What's amazing to me is that this device called cards were used about thousands of years ago in Europe, and around the time of the 1400s is when cards were invented. So when we talk about weaving, this is a very ancient craft, and it was done here in California by the native people very differently than what we're going to see today. The Chumash were actually known for their beautiful basketry. So they were amazing weavers, and they wove rabbit skin blankets, but they didn't weave with wool. This is a new thing for them. So, okay, back to carding. Here we go. We are going to card just like this. We're going to pull out those fibers. I'm going to use the term fiber and see if you can see now. Do you see this fiber? Raise your hand if you see the fiber here. Very good. If I didn't call this fiber, what might you call it at home? What does it look like to you? What about the term hair? Does it remind you of hair? Raise your hand if it reminds you of hair. Yes. All right. So I'm going to take my fibers that have been brushed out now. These are ready for the next step in our production of blankets. And what I'm going to do is take this off. And you saw me doing the drop spindle. We're actually going to take our carded wool. We're going to call this roving. We're going to take it inside our factory. Come on. So as you can see, this is also the brushed out wool, as is this. So that you can see it better, I'm actually going to use the white wool, and I'm going to give you a little light too. It's the beauty of technology, right? So here we go. I'm going to use this device, and I have a helper today. Her name's Emily. Thank you, Emily, for doing the technical filming of all of this. And she's going to give you a little tour of how this device works. So I'm just going to operate it so that you can see all the different parts, how they move, let you kind of think about all the different functions of each piece of this industrial machine. So you might notice I'm not plugging it into a wall. And so where's the electricity for this going to come from? more. Let's see, electricity is just basically energy. So where's the energy to run this machine? You know, I think it's in my arm. So I'm the energy. Raise your hand if you see any invisible energy in my arm. Probably not. But if I take my arm and I put it on this crank and I start moving it, the energy from my arm is going to move the crank. It's going to transfer it into the crank. It's going to turn the wheel. The wheel will transfer that energy into this rope, and this rope is going to transfer that energy into the spindle. So let me just put this down for a minute and show you what happens when we do that. So here I am. And what happens is that energy builds up in here. Now my invisible arm energy went all the way into the string. Check it out. Do you see how it curls up on itself? So that's the energy that we're talking about. Now we're going to take that energy, and remember, we want to spin this roving into yarn that you see here. I'm about to do that. So I'm going to take the hair here, my fibers, my hair. I'm just going to interchange that so you guys always remember that it's pretty much the same thing. I'm going to lay my fuzzy on top of my fuzzy. Okay. And those fibers aren't super straight, are they? They were kind of wavy. So I'm going to pull them together. And on the count of 3, count with me at home. Count 1, 2, 3. And watch what happens now. I'm going to release between my fingers. Oh, look at that. And we're going to go a little further. And I'm going to do some more spinning. Look at, we just made yarn. How cool is that? Okay, so this is how yarn is done. This was mostly done by the men. So carding and picking were done by girls and women. The men would spin and weave. Come on over here. Let me show you what we do with the yarn that we just created. We're going to create a blanket out of it. And that yarn is transferred onto a shuttle. That's what this device is. And this one's nice and full. You can see this one's almost empty. So let's see what happens when we use our loom. Now this loom is a device. I'm going to be sitting on it, and you can see there's a top part, but if you look down below, you're going to see there's a wheel here, and then there's pedals that my feet may go up and down, just like that. And so this part of this industrial tool is going to help me make blankets more efficiently. You know, when we use the term technology, we're using a term that means making things easier than they were before. So today we're using technology to bring this live to you instead of you driving all the way over here and watching this live, although that's really fun and I really miss having you here. So at the mission, weaving was done on this loom, and we're not just going to make one blanket. We're going to make about 7 blankets on this one loom set up like this. If we were to do individual blankets, it would be a different technology. This one is an industry one. We're going to make lots of blankets, just like at a factory where they would make your iPad. They're going to make a whole bunch of them, not just one. Okay, so as I do this, I'm going to take my shuttle. I put my 1 foot down, and I'm going to shuttle my yarn across just like that. So once I shuttle my yarn across, let me just make that a little bit better so you can see it. Once I shuttle my yarn across, I have to shift my feet. You can watch 1, 2, 3. There we go. Did you see that shift? And look, these top strings here, where do they go when I shift my feet? They go down here, right? Isn't that cool? So now we've got to bring this piece down to sit next to this guy. And that's where this device comes in. This piece of this machine is going to pull that string nice and straight. See how it makes it nice and straight? Just by these simple teeth right here. So I'm going to do that again. And then I'm just going to pull it taut, just like that. I'm going to do this a couple more times for you. So as I'm doing this, you might wonder, well, where did all these blankets go? Well, at La Purisima Mission, there were about 800 people that lived here. Most of them were the Chumash people. They were the ones that worked here to build it and to produce these blankets and to watch after the sheep. And each one of those Chumash people would get one blanket every year. It didn't cost them anything because it was part of living at the mission. The Padres wanted to make sure that the Chumash people were clothed. One of the things about the Native Americans in this area is they really didn't need much clothing because the weather's so nice here, their energy could be used on other things that were more important to them. But when the Spanish came in, they felt that that was not good, and that they wanted to have Chumash people wear clothes, and so they gave them clothing to wear. Wool can be pretty scratchy, so I wonder how many of those Chumash people didn't like wearing the clothes. All right, you might have noticed something. I'm just about to finish up, by the way, because we have other people to show you and other industries. I ran out of my yarn on my first shuttle. Did you notice? And look, the end of that is right here. So I came in with my next shuttle full of yarn and I scooted it across, but notice I let the end land here and this end is right here. I'm just gonna let them sit there and let's see what happens. You wanna see? 1, 2, 3, go, just like that. And I'm gonna pull it, see there's the end of this one, ends right there, and the end of this one is now over here. And I'm just gonna incorporate that. Look, you don't even see it. Isn't that something? And then I'm just gonna go ahead and shuttle this across, and now we're on our next color. And that's how you change out your shuttles on the loom. So, all right, look at that. Super fun. So you might ask, like, how long does it take to make a blanket? Well, a blanket is about 5 feet long. So think of it this way. It's about as long as you are tall or your mom or dad are tall. And then it's twice as wide as this. So it's gonna take, this is what I call one panel that I'm working on. It's gonna be 5 feet long. I'm gonna make another one 5 feet long and I sew them together and that's one blanket. There are about 1,000 blankets produced here in this industry at the mission. And so it would take the master weaver, he's the fastest weaver here. He could weave 3 blankets a day. So it's a lot of work. And there are about 5 looms in here. So it was a busy place. It employed about 100 Chumash people. And these blankets were given to all the members of the community here at the mission. And then the rest of them were used in trade. So thanks for joining me at the weaving shop. I think Emily was gonna go in search of another industry here. In fact, it's the #1 industry that brings in the most money of the mission. Let's go see if we can find it. Come on. Here, I'll take one of my blankets because it's cold today. Oh, it's kind of sprinkling out here. You guys see anyone? Raise your hand. Do you see anyone that looks like they might be making something here at the mission? Is there anyone over there? Let's see, anyone? What about over here? Do you see anyone over here? Raise your hand if you see anyone over here that might be making something.
Oh, we've got hands going
Oh,
up.
my goodness. Okay, put your hands down. I got another question for you. Raise your hands if you really want to see what's going on over here. Right. He's making noise.
Whoa,
I
lots of
smell
hands.
smoke. I hear stuff. I think we should go see. Come on. I'm curious. Oh, hi, Parker.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Good. Tell us what you're doing today.
Oh, good. Well, hello, everyone. My name's Parker, and I'm working on some projects here this morning. I got my piece of leather here, my mallet. I mean, do you have mallets like this at your house? Raise your hand if you might have one of these.
Actually, a lot more friends than I thought.
Well, this is one of my favorite tools, and I even have this here, a very thin piece of metal. And this was made by the blacksmiths at the mission, another group of expert craftspeople. Well, and I'm just working away here, making a lot of holes. Raise your hand if you have any idea on what kind of job I could have here at the mission.
Oh, I see lots of people raising their hands.
Well, if you're thinking what I'm thinking, I am the leather worker at the mission. Do any of you like to make things out of leather like this?
Yeah, about 50 friends.
Oh, cool. Well, this is my piece of leather here. I'm making a little pouch with it. So I'm making all of these little holes here. But I have a lot of other projects that I'm working on here at the mission and a lot of neat tools and things. Would you maybe like to see those with me today?
Oh, I see hands going up.
Nice. Well, before we discover that though, we have to discover where leather comes from. And do any of you have any ideas where we might get leather like this? I mean, can I go to the store and buy leather at the mission? Well, you're thinking right, I'm thinking we get it from something. Come on over here, I have something. I actually have this right here. And this here is where we get leather from. I want you to see, what do you notice about this? Perhaps, is there anything that you're wondering? Or does this great big thing here, does it remind you of anything? Well, I noticed that this is really big. It's almost as big as I am. It's really wide. Ooh. And when I feel it too, it's not very smooth. And well, listen carefully and see if you can hear. Did you all hear that? Pretty solid, huh? This here is one of our cowhides, the skin from the cattle. And this is where we get leather from at the mission. Spain, when they came here to California to take this land, well, they brought with them a lot of cattle. And as a matter of fact, our mission once had about 10,000 cattle. All of these cattle, like Anne mentioned about the sheep, they're all new. They began to eat up all of the plants and, I mean, pollute the water as well here in California. They greatly changed the environment. So it's important that we remember that when we talk about this industry at the mission, that they really changed the way of life for the Chumash people and the other peoples in California. But this is our hide here. And at the mission, well, this here was something that we traded. This was our #1 trade item here at La Purisima Mission. I mean, do any of you trade with hides like this?
Oh, we have some hands going up.
Oh, you do? No way. Well, that is exactly what we do here at the mission. And well, we sell them too. I want you to raise your hand if you have any ideas on how much we could sell one of these great big ginormous hides. All right, well, let's see, I'm gonna dig into my little pouch here. I actually have what we would sell them for in here. Ooh, here's my little container here. I wonder what's gonna be inside. Ooh, let's see. One of these. Were you thinking that? Wow, we would sell these hides for 1 peso. That's about $1 in mission times. Today, if we were to sell these hides for 1 peso, that would be equal to about 4 cents, 4 pennies. I mean, is that a lot of money to sell those hides for? 1 peso? Not really, right? That was our trade item here at the mission. So the missions could get supplies and other products that they needed. But from those great big ginormous hides, we actually make leather. All right, would you like to see the process of making leather? All right, well, this was typically done about 1 mile away from our mission at a place called the tanning vats. And so that is where we tan the hides. And I made my own little tanning vat right here. So I had my little bucket. I put my hide in here. All right, here's my hide. It's like our big one, just a little bit smaller. But what do you notice about this hide? What do you notice about it? Is there anything similar with our other hide? Or perhaps, is there anything different? Well, you're thinking what I'm thinking. Well, this here is really flexible. Ooh, oh, so very flexible. And it's not really that hard anymore. Ah, and it's very soft when I feel it. So what we do is we soak it in water at these vats. And so I have a whole bunch of water we soak it in. And well, what we also add to it is I add a whole bunch of this. Raise your hand if you have any ideas on what this could be. Well, nice work. This here is tree bark. More specifically, this is from an oak tree. So we take bark from an oak tree because in here we have something called tannins. Ooh, if you've ever eaten fruit that's not yet ripe or perhaps had coffee, well, that has tannins in it. And we use that in order to make leather. And when we mix it together, we have this really awesome mixture. Would you like to see what that mixture looks like? Oh, good. I have it in a little jar right here. And here it is. Pretty awesome, huh? This here has our tannins in our water, and that is what we use to make leather. In order to make good leather out of Mission, it takes about 1 year, but I got news for you. Here at the Mission, we made really bad leather because at La Purisima, we wanted to get a lot of it to sell and to make things. And so it took about 6 months to make leather here. So we made really bad leather. I mean, would you want really bad leather? Maybe. I know I wouldn't want any bad leather. All right, but I have some leather here. Here's some of it here. Really nice and pliable. It's soft. And this is what we can use to make a number of different things at the Mission. Now, I do have some things here that are made of leather. Would you like to see those? Oh, cool. All right, come along this way. All right. Well, I have this here. Does this remind anyone of anything? Ooh, wow. This reminds me. Our Mission had about 1,000 horses. So they needed plenty of saddles just like this in order to ride on it. So this is our saddle here. This is all made from leather, all leather that was made here at the Mission. And this was made by us here at La Purisima Mission today, demonstrating it in the same way that was done by the leather workers back 200 years ago at this Mission. And so saddles were really a main product that we produce here at the Mission, just like this. Do any of you make saddles? Nah, no saddle makers here today. Wow. We make saddles from that. We also make pouches too. Here's my leather pouch. So do you have a leather pouch or a purse like this or a bag? Yeah, well, I know I do. This is mine. And well, in order to sew this together, we need something. All right. We need this stuff here. This here looks like string, doesn't it? Well, this here is what we call sinew. Have any of you heard of sinew before? Maybe a few of our friends today. Well, sinew, we get it from muscles. Yeah, muscles of animals like deer or even the cattle. And that's what we use as our string to sew together. So you can see here, my little pouch, this is all sewed together with sinew. That's what we use. It's really, really strong and it holds muscles together. So do any of you use sinew then? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's what we use here at the mission. And in case you're wondering what's on the inside, I have this on the inside in case I ever need to cut leather or anything like that. So yeah, that's what we have here. All right. Well, I even here at the mission, we make these. Buckets. This here is not made from leather. This is made from the cowhide. So even though some of our things we make are made from leather, others are not, and this is one of them. Do you have cowhide buckets at your house? Well, that's what we have here at the mission. Oh, we even make these. This here is una riata, a rope. And this is what we use to rope the cattle. And so we have to rope the cattle several times a year in both the fall in order to get the leather, and also in the spring too. We'll talk in just a minute about what we do in the spring with the cattle. All right, I do have these here. That is made from rawhide. It's really stiff. One other thing too that I have handy, I have this. These are all just hides. Yeah, and we use these at the mission to, well, tie our roofs together. Do any of you use these to tie your roofs together at your house? You don't? Wow, this is what we use here at the mission to tie roofs together, to tie other things, both rawhide and both leather. All right, I have two other things to share with you. Would you like to see them with me? Oh, good. Come along. Come this way here. Well, okay. We're going to go right over here. Well, here at the mission, we make these. These are one of the main products that we make here at the mission, our shoes. If you lived here at the mission, every year you were given one pair of shoes. And remember I said our leather was really bad? Well, most of the times the cobblers, the people who made shoes, well, they spent a lot of their time fixing them. You can see I have some holes in my shoes here. So they're kind of falling apart. So we got to repair them. So that is what we spend a lot of our time here at the mission as leather workers. And I even have molds just like this that shape our shoes. Do you have molds like this to shape your shoes? Make them by hand? I must tell you, I'm wearing some right now, but they are not comfortable at all. When I walk, I can feel every rock in there. And today, since it's a little drizzly out, they get really wet. My feet are all wet. So yeah, those are our shoes at the mission. All right, well, I have one last thing I wanted to share with you. And it involves this gadget over here. All right, here it is. Pretty cool, huh? This is one of my favorite things here at the mission. This is our forge. And well, as you can tell, we get a nice big fire in it. And I have this piece of metal here that's sticking out. This was something that was typically done in the springtime at the mission with the cattle. We have these here. These are our cattle brands. Each mission has a different cattle brand because remember, we talked about how these cattle were very, very valuable to the missions, right? They sold their cattle, they made shoes from them, they made bags, they made saddles, oh, and so many other things too that we didn't talk about. But well, would you maybe like to see our brand in action? Oh, good. All right, well, let's see. I'm gonna move this away. Leather there. And it's really hot. This is also all made from leather too. All right, so I'm gonna take it out. Are you ready? We're gonna put it right on here. Ooh, that smells great. And there we have it. There is our brand at the mission. Yep. So all of the cattle, they were branded here at the mission, so people wouldn't steal them, take them, or if they'd run off, well, the missions could get them back. But this is our cattle brand. Each mission has a different brand that they would use. Pretty cool, huh? I mean, would any of you want to be like the vaqueros at the mission to brand the cattle and to rope them? Ooh, yeah. Oh, okay. Would anyone want to be a leather worker here at the mission? Ooh, and make things out of leather. Nice. Got some hands up. Ooh, how about making the leather, like tanning it with the oak bark and doing it at the tanning vats? Remember though, I think that's the smelliest job. Ooh, it smelled so bad when you're making leather. Yeah. Ooh. All right. Well, are you all ready to go along to our next stop on our adventure today at the mission? All right, awesome. Well, come along this way. We're gonna go explore and we'll see what else there is to see at the mission. Oh, there you are.
Oh,
How's
hey,
it going?
it's good. I smelled something and I thought I'd come see what it was.
Oh.
It was the leather,
Yeah, the leather,
The
the
leather.
branding.
the branding. Whew,
Yes.
that has a smell to it.
It does.
Yeah,
It really does.
yeah, you don't want to be standing downwind from it.
No, not at all.
It's worse than raw fleece. Well, tanning is worse than raw fleece and branding.
Oh, that's so bad. You could barely breathe when that's going on.
Yeah, that's really awful. I think that's why they put the tanning vat so far away from the mission.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're looking for another worker out here today, right?
Yeah.
Do any of you see anyone?
Some parts over here.
Ah, this way.
I have some people way over there.
Huh.
We've already been there.
Do any of you see anything?
Where is anybody that might be making something? Huh?
Oh, wait, I think our friends see someone. Where, this way?
Oh,
No? Yeah? Oh.
what? It's our friend Jesse.
Ah, it is.
Let's go see what Jesse's doing. He always has something neat.
How's it going, guys?
So you just you went to weaving, you saw leather with Parker, and have you guys told them what we're doing here?
No?
Not yet.
Not yet. So right here we're making candles, which is pretty cool. We're actually going to make some candles. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. So candle making in mission times, well, anywhere for that matter, back 200 years ago, was very, very important because you use them in the church, you use them in your apartment, you use them everywhere because there was no electricity, right? So in order to make candles, we're going to have to talk about two types of candles they made at the mission. Back in mission times, they made two types of candles, tallow candles and beeswax candles. We'll start talking about tallow first. Raise your hand. Does anybody know what tallow is? Does anybody know what tallow is? No? Does anyone raise their hand?
We've got a couple, not too many.
All righty. So tallow is animal fat. The fat from the animal, they would get all that fat and they would take it to the candle making room and they would have some wick, which is this, what you see here. Get my scissors. Get the wick out of here. And they would have a dipping wheel with wooden spokes like that. And they would have a trough with tallow, with fat. And it would smell really, really bad. And they would spin, dip, spin, dip, spin, and dip this multiple times, many, many times until you had a nice candle. And it would probably be as thick as my thumb here. And that would be your tallow candle. But tallow, like I said, it's animal fat, it smells really, really bad. And it sizzles, it sprays, and it's pretty smoky once it starts to get to the bottom of the wick. So you probably don't want that in the church, or you probably wouldn't give that to a visitor. So that's where beeswax candles come in. And that's what we're doing today. We're making beeswax candles. Beeswax, now if you look at this jar here, we have this jar with some honey, and inside we have a honeycomb. And that's where beeswax comes in. It got a little wet, but this is beeswax, a nice 2 bricks of beeswax. Now, let me ask you guys this. What little creature do I need buzzing around in order to get beeswax? Do any of you know? Raise your hand if you guys know.
Oh, we have quite a few who think they know.
Yeah, and it seems pretty obvious, right? Just because of the name, beeswax, right? You need bees, but not just any bee. You need honeybees. Now, a little fun fact that you can share with your friends and your family, and a fun fact that you probably didn't know was that guess what? There were no honeybees here in Mission times. So the wind is starting to pick up a little bit. So hopefully you guys can hear me. But there were no honeybees here in California Mission times. So if there were no honeybees, how would the missions get the beeswax? Well, if you study history, like you're studying history as a fourth grader, California mission history, you've probably heard of the magical word, which is called trade. Trade was very, very important in mission times. Why? Because that's how you got things that weren't available here. So that's how they would get the beeswax. Now, Parker probably talked about leather. They had lots and lots of leather at the mission, and Anne talked about wool. They had lots and lots of wool. That's because they had so many animals here, and they were producing all of these things that they could trade, and in return, they would get things like this, things that weren't available here. Now, in order to melt this, if you look right there, I have two pots there in that cauldron that is really hot, and that's where I'm melting my beeswax, right in there. Now, in order to make beeswax candles, I will not do the dipping process like I do with tallow candles. I will use this here. This is called a mold. Now, I can make 8 candles with this mold. Now, if any of you have done popsicles at home, it's pretty fun. And when you use a mold, right? A mold, and that's gonna shape your popsicle. Well, the same idea. This is gonna give my candle its shape. So in order to do this, I'm gonna cut some wick, just like this, and I would stick the wick to the bottom. Let's see if I have one that's. Let me show you. Just like this. I'm gonna move this one out of the way. And we place the wick here and here, bring it over 4 times until we have this piece of wood nice and secure. Now, obviously, how do I get this in here? Well, like I said, I would melt it, right? So once that, I believe that's ready, we can actually do that. But before we go over there and start pouring wax, if you look at the bottom of the mold, you can see that even with the wick going through, I still have some pretty large holes, right? So what's going to happen if I pour in the wax? Does anybody know what would happen? Raise your hand if you know what would happen if I pour in that wax. Yeah.
Got lots of friends raising hands.
Yeah. So obviously the wax is going to pour out, right? And we don't want that. So we have to cover those holes up. Now, what can I use to cover those holes up? Usually a lot of you guys say, well, just put tape. But you think we would have tape in mission times? Probably not, huh? We probably wouldn't have tape. So what am I going to use to cover those holes up? Well, I'm actually going to use wax. So I'm going to get some wax out of here. So I got some hot wax here, and we're going to pour wax right up top. Just like that. Top of those the holes there. You can see that we have some wax left over. Do it one more time. Now, do you guys notice how fast it's dried? Look at that, it's already dry. Just gotta make sure that, so it's already dry there. Seconds, and there you go, the holes are covered. Now I can start pouring in some of that wax. So we'll go over here and we'll do that. Now, if I look inside the mold, I can still see some light coming through. So that means that we gotta pour more. Very smoky here, so I'm not gonna stand here very long, but I'm gonna show you how we pour that in there. Very good. So that's just a little example, so you can see how we pour it in there. And this is how it looks like once we pour it all in there. This is actually a mold that I poured wax in there a couple, I believe it was last week. And you can see that the wax is really dry. Now, if I were to do this right now, it would take about 40 minutes for it to dry, 40 to 45 minutes for it to dry. It takes quite a long time. Now, in order to get these candles out, how would we do that? Well, let's see. We'll get my scissors out. And you got to remember that in order to get these candles out, I have to cut the string in the bottom. So once I cut the string in the bottom, this is going to give you a better idea of what I've been doing this entire time. Remember, these would be attached and I would have to clip these. And now do you start seeing the shape of my candle? This entire time, we've been making backwards candles. Do you guys see that? This is going to be the top of my candle, right? That's pretty cool. So I'm going to get my tool here and my gloves. I'll be right back. And we're going to remove this wax here in order to take these candles out. So give me 1 second while I put these on. Very good. All righty, so I have my tool here, and all we're going to do is just start scraping all this off. You can see the wax here, right? The dry wax. And by removing this, it's just going to make it easier for them to come out. It takes quite a while. So these candles, these beeswax candles, would last longer than tallow candles. They would smell nicer, but these would only, since beeswax was very rare, it had to come off trading ships. Not everyone would be using beeswax candles. So beeswax candles, like I said, would mainly be used in the church, and we actually have different sizes that we can make. So maybe a bigger size like this you would see in the church, and maybe something like this you would see with a padre in his desk, or maybe in the walls of the chapel and things like that. So you do have different size molds. Very good. So let me just remove this piece here. And we'll walk this way. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna dip this entire mold into the hot water. And the hot water is just gonna warm them up just enough so they slide right out. So we walk this way, we're gonna do that. And in order to do that, we're gonna remove these. And then you can see the melted wax in there. All righty. So now that we got all that out of the way, hopefully these come out fast enough so I don't have to stand in the smoke for too long. Remember, we cut the wick in the bottom. It should be ready. And let's see if these candles come out pretty or not. We're gonna dip it inside like that. Then we're just gonna tug a little bit. And this water is really, really hot. All righty, here they come. Wow, that's pretty cool, huh? Now let me just get the water out of this mold, and I'll show you the candles up close. All righty, look at this. Isn't that cool? We have 8 beautiful candles ready to be taken to the church and to the residence building there. That is pretty neat. Now, how many of you guys, or raise your hand if this is something new that you have never seen before? Is this something new to you? Yeah?
Lots of hands going up.
Yeah, a lot of us don't really make candles like this anymore, right? We maybe go and buy them, or you can make them at home, but you don't use molds like this. It's really, really rare. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the weaving, the leather, and the candle making. It was nice to have you, and hopefully in the future you guys can come out here and join us in person. It was nice to meet all of you, and we'll see you guys later.
Bye, everyone.